Americans, what is the rest of the world not ready to hear? Most of you guys are getting pretty fat too. Bill Burr, that was the opening line of his last special, which was shot in England. Edit. Okay guys, I get it, it wasn't the opening line. I forgot. Hey, you know you guys are pretty fat too. Cannot unhear this in his voice. California is the 5th largest economy in the world. The US has 4 states with economies of over $1 trillion, all of which would be in G20 if independent, and everything stayed the same, which it wouldn't, but whatever. California and Texas have varied enough economies, a large energy sector, and ocean access that they could theoretically function as independent nations. Everyone knows Texas was an independent country for the better part of a decade, but technically California was, too, for 25 days. The only reason Florida Man exists is because of Florida's laws about the accessibility of crime documentation, which makes it a goldmine for tabloid journalism. 2 different states. Same exact situation. The headlines would be, Florida man arrested for having sex with an alligator, California man arrested for animal abuse. In Florida it wasn't considered animal abuse until 2011. There's still 4 states where it isn't illegal. Like WTF. In Denmark we only made it illegal in 20,152,016. Before that we had animal sex tourists from Germany. EU WTF? That is some depraved shit. What animals are animal sex tourists going for? Like I cannot fathom it. The dumbest Americans often speak the loudest. Edit. While I appreciate the corrections guys, especially since my comment has now rocketed me to loud dumb American status, shockingly, I did know this was a global human thing. I simply shared it as a reminder since it seems like an all too often forgotten point when discussing Americans. Regardless, thanks for the imaginary internet points my dudes. And may all you loud but not dumb humans find justice understanding. Edit 2, hate me for my edits but I felt this was still important. Please go do something good for your family community world today. Too many shitty things going on these days, so it'd be nice to upset the balance in the opposite direction for a while. A friend of mine said it, an empty wagon makes more noise in a slow southern drawl. And considering that the squeaky wheel gets the grease, that's why we have so many solutions to problems that don't seem to actually exist. Europe has a racism problem as well. I moved from America to Europe and y'all jump through so many hoops to pretend that America is the only place with racism despite how blaringly blatant it is in Europe. Edit. Obviously I know Europe is not a singular country, I just did not feel like listing all the European countries I've lived in or traveled to. Edit. If y'all really want to focus more on the fact that I said Europe instead of listing every country I've ever been to than on the racism thing, then you're really just proving my point. Most of Europe and Asia is far, far more racist than most of the US. You'd rather have us as the world police than China. Most Americans, be they liberal or conservative, are not nearly as hateful as you might assume from reading Reddit posts or watching American news programs. McDonald's is not the only building in America. There's also Starbucks. Usually 2 within a mile of each other. Americans are not the only annoying tourists in the world. We can be bad, sure, but I have met plenty of assholes from all sorts of countries visiting. Sometimes reading through Reddit you get the sense that the only people in the world with bad travel manners are Americans. I remember I saw another AskReddit post and it asked where do the worst tourists come from, and almost every answer I saw was Chinese tourists. Purely anecdotally, I have to agree to this. I spent a few years living in a tourist-heavy location. There's good and bad apples of every nationality, but as a whole tourists scarily conform to the stereotypes. Americans are friendly but loud and noticeable. Slavic tourists can be spotted from a mile away from their attires. Chinese travel in larger groups and seem to be more oblivious to their surroundings, blocking the paths and such. In contrast, Japanese ones do seems to be taking a silly amount of photos, but are far more aware and respectful of daily life. What attire gives away the Slavs? The miniskirts. Let Boris live how he wants. KFC will have a new seasoning on the chicken sandwiches. With 12 herbs and spices, they would be unstoppable. I think I figured out at least one of the herbs and spices. I'm not 100% sure, but I think one of them is salt. I'm pretty sure 8 of them are salt. MASH is better without the laugh track. I just listened to a podcast that mentioned this today. Conan O'Brien needs a friend. Apparently there was a rule that they could never use a laugh track while they were in the operating room. The guest of the episode, Stephen Merchant, explained how he thought MASH was great in the UK, then saw it in the US with the laugh track and thought, my god, Hawkeye's an asshole. Yes, but MASH aired in many other countries completely without a laugh track. If you get the show on DVD, you can select to watch it without the laugh track. Under language you select English 2. English 1 is the show as it aired in the US, with a laugh track. English 2 is the show as it aired elsewhere, without a laugh track. It's so much better. I went to Italy and there was a restaurant selling American pizza, which was pizza with French fries, hot dogs and more ranch than pizza. He said it's authentic American pizza and it's how everyone eats pizza over there. I told him I'm from America and I've never once seen anyone eat that. He told me I was wrong and it's how all Americas eat pizza. Y'all are crazy too. I made the mistake of ordering pizza while in the Vatican Cafe. It said American slice, so I assumed it might be a thicker base than Italian. It came out with just potato wedges as a topping and essentially ketchup as a base sauce. I'm not even American but was offended for you guys. America isn't the only country with problems. Many of y'all are just as ducked up, we're just louder. Children are not your retirement fund. Screams in Latin American. Screams in Asian. Screams in emotional damage. Despite there being an obesity epidemic, there are many children who are hungry. Unfortunately, the foster care system is a worse outcome sometimes. We have many hungry children. Currently teaching saving and spending to my first graders. They had to answer the question, what is one thing you would like to save up your money for? One of my students wrote money to buy some food. Heartbreaking. We aren't uncultured because we don't travel, it's just that our states are the size of your countries. I can drive 8 hours in my state, and still be in my state. And then you have Texas. America is more welcoming than most other countries. For example, I've been living in Korea for almost 3 years. I could speak the language perfectly, interact with the community, learn the customs and traditions, and yet I still wouldn't be considered Korean, or even be looked at as a Korean citizen. I wouldn't belong, because I don't look Korean. But in the US, you can be from pretty much anywhere and be accepted as an American. You might look African, Asian, European, but you would be considered American. And you would belong. And it's awesome. The US is one of the most welcoming places in the world. The FitnessGram Pacer test is a multi-stage aerobic capacity test that progressively gets more difficult as it continues. The 20-meter pacer test will begin in 30 seconds. Line up at the start. The running speed starts slowly, but gets faster each minute after you hear this signal. Beep. A single lap should be completed each time you hear this sound. Ding. Remember to run in a straight line, and run as long as possible. The second time you fail to complete a lap before the sound, your test is over. The test will begin on the word start. On your mark, get ready, start. Not all Americans have money. Edit, most don't. Not all Americans are fat and stupid either. Some of us are just fat. Some of us are just stupid. Team stupid over here. Team fat checking in. Sorry I'm late and out of breath. Breath. Congrats on joining both teams. Smile. We are not a monolith. The difference in culture between states, even counties or towns, can be massive. Making a generalized statement about Americans is really just disingenuous. Most New Yorkers aren't psychopaths, all of us are. I love the fact that if you get stuck in the snow, there's always someone that will help out. Then, the helper will go home and tell everyone about a ducking idiot he helped out of the snow. Lol. Last winter when Austin got 6 inches of snow, I was helping someone who was stuck and an older gentleman came by and said, "Okay guys, I'm from New York, I grew up with this crap, I'll help you out." He gives the driver some vague directions, makes him arguably more stuck, then peaced out. As a bystander, it was quite hilarious, but the guy whose truck was stuck wasn't laughing.